Hey guys, how's it going? I popped on today to whip up a quick video on how to make my new mini box tote. This is obviously not with the weaving that Nova Clavi Design has put out with me, which is still available until tomorrow at 8 p.m. Tomorrow being 4/22/2020 at 8 p.m. EST. You can get this sewing pattern plus her weaving pattern for $10 combined. And then after 8 p.m. tomorrow, they will change. The prices will go up. So the pattern for just my mini box tote will be 10, and then her weaving pattern will be 3. So get on it if you can. Otherwise, I hope that you enjoy this video that I made. I walk through every step, start to finish. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm in a pretty goofy mood today. I don't know, just said a lot of weird stuff, so enjoy. So let's gather the supplies that we need to make our mini box tote. Here I have my straps. You'll see that they are in 2 pieces right now because I'm going to have to combine the pieces in order to make that full length strap that I want to make. So that's the main panel color, and this is going to be my accent here. I have my 2 zipper panels. I have my top lining pieces. I have my strap anchors here. These are the bottom accent pieces for my exterior, and then my 2 exterior main panels. And you can see I already went ahead and sewed my tag on. I have my 2 lining pieces here, and I have my lining pieces interfaced already, as you can tell. And then I have my inner slip pocket piece also interfaced. 1 zipper, 2 strap anchors, 1 tri-slide, and of course the rivets. So let's get going. So I have read a comment on my YouTube channel that I don't really follow the steps as written in my pattern, so I'm going to do my very best today to do that for you guys. So step 1, we are going to create our exterior panels. So I'm going to grab 1 exterior, the top, and then 1 exterior bottom, and I'm going to clip them right sides together. I'm going to do it for the second one as well. And then I'll move over to the machine and I'm just going to stitch these together on both. So I'm going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to start here and sew all along the straight edge. I am using a 3.5 stitch length, a size 12 microtex needle, and I have my Teflon foot on here. Right, so this step that I'm about to do is optional in the instructions, but I prefer the look of it, and it makes it just a little bit easier during the final construction. But I'm going to butterfly open this seam. I'm just going to finger press it really well. And then from the right side, so that I can keep an eye on my stitch lines, I'm going to stitch these butterfly seams open. This will take a little bit of finagling, but if you go slow, it shouldn't be a problem. Move you guys closer. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that my butterfly is open. You want to be careful here not to stretch the cork in either direction because that will make it a little bit wonky at the end. So with my needle down, I can lift up from this side and just push on this butterfly seam underneath to make sure that it stays open on the bottom there. And I'm stitching about 1/8 of an inch away from that seam that we just created when we attach the exterior top to the exterior bottom. Just makes it lay nice and flat. Here it is on the back. Right, now I'm gonna do that to my other piece. An easy way to finger press is with the exterior top right side up. You can just fold over the bottom really well, finger press that way. And then same thing with the right side, or the exterior bottom right side up, you can just finger press the exterior top. And that will create the initial folds for then when you flip to the back side and you separate these seams and start finger pressing, it just gives another added little push, if you will. And so I'm just consistently popping up this edge that I'm working from and just ensuring that this butterfly is staying open. Side 2. So this next step, which is step 3, we're going to sew the exterior panels together. I'm just going to stay at my machine. So I'm going to lay them right sides together, and I'm going to be very careful to match up these butterflied seams here. And then I'm going to clip all around. First, I always match my butterflies. Up here at the bottom. Do one up here for good measure. One over here. So, as you can see, my cutting was not precise, which is nothing new if you know me, but we will trim that up after we do the steps, so do not worry about it. The important part is that your butterflies and that your bottom corner edges match up semi-decently. So this is the step that confuses a lot of people, and so I'm going to scoot this very close and try to make it to where you can see everything that I'm doing. So to get started, I'm just going to sew down I'm going to start at the top right corner here, and I'm going to sew all the way down. I'm going to backstitch well at the beginning and the end, and then the tricky part is after that. Whenever I get to this butterfly seam, I do like to add a couple stay stitches before and after because it does go over a few layers there, and I want it to be a tight seam whenever I flip the bag right side out. All right, so I'm approaching the end here, and I held my 1/4 inch seam line. This might be easier. So now, with the needle down, I'm gonna lift my foot, and I'm gonna pivot my work to where the bottom corners meet up as well as possible. They don't have to be perfect. And then I'm just gonna keep sewing that 1/4 inch line. And if you can tell, it creates this pucker over here, and that's what we want. So I'm just keep sewing across the bottom. So I'm as close to the edge as possible on this corner. I'm going to lift my foot, turn it, and then push my corners so that they meet a little bit closer. They're not going to be perfect, and this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a fun trick to help your boxed corners line up nicely. And the best part is that if you don't like this method, then don't do it. You can just skip that part altogether. But this is the fun part. So you have these weird pleats, right? This is how it looks because you sewed, you just kept that line of stitching and you just kept sewing right across. So what you're gonna do is you reach inside the bag and pop your corners out, and look, they match up almost perfectly because that stitch line is right there. So to me, that is so much easier than trying to box in the traditional way, because I can never get my corners to meet up nicely, and you can't, without looking inside the bag, you can't tell if your seams are lined up, and it's always just a mess for me. So Lauren from More Me Know taught me this trick when we were doing a live sewing, and I have adopted it into everything that I do now. So again, I butterflied mine open. I don't know if you can tell, there you go. And then I'm gonna clip it, and then I'm gonna sew across that bottom edge at 1/4 inch. You can't really see what I'm doing here, but. And then you have one nice boxed corner. It's hard to tell with the black cork, I apologize. So again, on this side, so right now it's looking like this from how it's still stitched together from that one stitch line. You're gonna reach in and you're just gonna box your corner out. You can see my fingers, and then you can line up your seams perfectly. So much easier. Once you figure out how to do it, it's a game changer. And it really is not hard. But I admit, I was lost whenever Lauren tried to explain it to me the first time. I was very confused, and we were live, so it was almost a little bit embarrassing. Then once I got it, I got it. So again, just stitching across this box. I'm gonna make sure that my butterfly stays open. So because my cutting was off and my top edge isn't straight, I'm going to go ahead and fix that now, because this is going to be the same top edge that we top stitch in the last step. So I'm just going to line up as best as I can and cut it straight. There we go. So this little trick that I do is not in the, it's not written into the pattern, just because, I don't know, everybody has different ways of doing things. But what I like to do is butterfly, because to give you, to preface this, the next step is we're going to add the strap anchors. And so what I like to do, in order to make the strap anchors sit nicely, I like to butterfly this seam as well. And then I'll just glue it into place with clips. I suppose I should have had my glue at the ready, but I didn't. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue, about an inch, inch and a half down. So you can see the glue on both sides. And now I'm just gonna butterfly this seam right open. Top of the glue, and then I'm going to clip, and I'm going to allow this glue to set. I don't necessarily care about this over here. If you wanted to, you could trim your seam allowance. That's totally up to you. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Here, let's flip this bad boy out while it dries. So there we go, you can see I got my side seams nicely lined up. And that's why I pay super attention to that when I'm clipping. But so this is the exterior of the bag. So now while this glue is drying over here, I'm gonna prep my anchor pieces. So you need your 2 strap anchors, and then you need your actual hardware. So if you wanted to at this point, you could glue the edges so that the cork doesn't fray, or you could do edge coat here. I'm just going to use glue because the edge coat will take too long. Just squirted glue onto my wrist casually. If you wanted to, you could also top stitch these around the long edges. Doesn't do anything for the structure of the bag or the cork, but it just looks good. So that's up to you if you want to do that. Such a mess with glue. It's pretty impressive. Okay. Got one little thread sticking there. There we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just on the wrong side, I'm going to glue on half of each strap anchor. Then I'm going to slide my hardware through. Oh shoot, I forgot to mark. Haha. See, me not following my pattern. So you're going to mark on the right side of each strap anchor a 1/2 inch. There we go. So that's going to help us whenever we place the straps into the actual bag. All right, some more glue. And then what you do is you just slide the hardware up to where it meets the halfway point, and then you just want the rest of it to meet up. Pretty simple. I'm gonna clip this into place so that it can dry. And then second hardware. So now I'm just going to grab my bag again, and on this one side I'm going to pull my clip off, so now you can see my, if you can see, it's butterflied open right there. And I'm going to take some glue, probably hard to see, but I have a blue line where I measured that 1/2 inch line, and I'm just going to put glue just below that 1/2 inch line. And then I'm going to center it and glue it into place on this clip. You want to make sure that it's sitting straight as well, because this will be the final placement of the strap anchor. Alrighty. With the second one, so glue just below that 1/2 inch marked line, and I'm going to glue it to this side. And I just eyeball the middle, but if you need to, you can totally make a mark down the center of your strap anchor as well. Totally up to you. Just all what you need. So this is what we have right now. We have the full exterior of the bag with the strap anchors attached that are gluing into place. And we're gonna put this to the side for now. Back there. Alrighty, so that was step 5 with the strap anchors. The next thing that we're going to do is to create the recessed zipper panel. So you're going to gather your zipper panels and your zipper. And mine is one 9-inch zipper, so I'm just gonna leave it as is because this pattern will have, the zipper will be overhanging on both ends. So it's a little bit different than typical bag designs where usually it's just the tail end overhangs. So I just like to burn around all of my edges. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark the center so that I know that everything lines up nicely. So there's the center of my zipper tabs, and now I'm going to mark the center of my zipper. And I'm going to do it from teeth beginning to teeth end, not the actual zipper tape. So this is going to be 4.5. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to take glue, and on the wrong side of one zipper panel, I'm going to glue down, and then carefully I'm going to match up this line to my, might be easier to do it this way, to my marked line on my zipper tape. I'm going to move it down just a bit. I don't want it that close to my teeth. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do this other side while I'm here, which I'm sure is straying from the pattern. I apologize. Work smarter, not harder, though, right? Let's see, right here. And this one you can kind of eyeball too, since you already have the one lined up. Just want to make sure that your ends are the same. So in the pattern, I tell you to overlap it by 1/4 inch, which I just eyeballed it, but as you can tell, it is from the edge of the zipper tape, it is 1/4 inch overhang, which that leaves enough room for this zipper head to get through without any issues, which is what we're going for. All right, so I'm gonna flip mine over, and I'm gonna add glue to this side, the wrong side again of the zipper panel. So I'm not sure what happened, but I had thought that I was recording for a while, and so I was a couple steps ahead and just looked up at my phone to make sure that it was still on, and it wasn't. So I'm gonna go back to where it looks like the video cut off. Anyways, what I had done was I added my strap anchors, and what I walked you through is in step 5, what you do. So you're gonna imagine that this strap anchor is not already glued to here, but this strap anchor is flat. I'll just do it again, whatever. And you mark it 1/2 inch on one short edge, and that's the line that you're gonna use to glue it. That's how far down you know that you're gonna stick the strap anchor. After you draw your line, you're gonna glue your hardware into your strap anchor, and so you just slide it into the middle here and then match up all the sides. And I'm gonna let that dry for a second. And then what I also showed you is I like to butterfly this open. So before this seam was sticking out straight from where I had sewn it. And so what I did was the same thing that I did when I butterflied these seams here. I just butterflied it open about an inch down, and I just glued it on either side and clipped it and let it glue into place. So now that that glue is done drying, because the video cut off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my strap anchor onto that side. So using that blue line, my 1/2 inch line, I'm going to apply glue underneath it. And then I'm going to glue it into place, centering it on this center stitch line here, centering the strap anchor, and lining up that 1/2 inch blue mark that I made with my chalk pen, and then we'll glue it into place. You want to make sure that it's level and straight, because this will be the final resting place of these strap anchors. And so, as you can see, I already did the other side because I did that in the previous video and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so moving on. That is the entire exterior of the bag right now. Okay, so the next step that we're going to do is to create the zipper panel. The recessed zipper panel. It is step number 6. So I went ahead and I did 1/2 of it just to show you what we're going for here. And so to walk you through it, what you do is on the top side of one of your zipper panels, or both of them, you're going to mark your midline, so that way you can line it up with your midline of your zipper. So you also want to mark your midline of your zipper, which I do from the beginning of the zipper to the end of the zipper, not the tape itself. So this is my midline. And just for posterity, might as well do it on the back. And then what you're going to do is apply glue maybe not as messy as I did, pro tip. And then you're just going to line up your midline on your zipper panel to your zipper tape midline. And you're going to overlap it by 1/4 inch. I'm just wiping glue off that came out of there. And then what you do is you flip it over, and we're going to fold this piece up and over to meet. And then it's also going to overlap 1/4 inch on this side. So then both sides are going to be resting at the same place on the top and the bottom. So then when we top stitch it, we're going to catch both the top and bottom of the zipper. So I'm just going to glue the other side down now. If you wanted to, you could use double-sided tape here. It's totally up to you. I've noticed that double stick tape kind of glues up my needles a little bit, or gums up my needles. All right, so now carefully, I'm just going to fold this right in half and line up that midline that I just created with the fold over of 1/4 inch. I'm just going to clip my edges here because they do kind of like to peel up. Just apply some pressure, and then I'm going to let that glue dry. Alrighty, so we are now on step 7. We are going to top stitch around the entire zipper panel on both sides here. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to start on this side. And I always like to start closer to my teeth. I don't know why, it's just a matter of preference. You start wherever, but I'm going to top stitch around all 4 sides. And you're going to be using about 1/8 of an inch, but the way that I gauge it is I just line my zipper teeth up with the edge of my foot here. So this is what it's gonna look like, top stitched all the way around. So now I'm gonna flip and do my other side. Oh, and you'll see, so here's the back of it. Because we did the overlap correctly, it caught it at the same stitch length. So 1/8 of a seam allowance here caught both sides, which is what we're going for. So then I'm just going to trim up my tails here, and then our recessed zipper panel is all done. If you like to get fancy on things and you are using contrasting thread, this would be a cool spot to do some extra sewing. If you added 2 more lines of sewing on either side, you would see that whenever you look down into the bag and the zipper's closed. So this would be a cool place to get fancy. All right, so we've just finished creating the zipper panel here. We're gonna set that to the side now. And before we get started on step 8, which is creating the slip pocket box, I want to remind you to, if you clipped your edges, or if you clipped your strap anchors to your exterior, go ahead and unclip that, because if you're using cork or vinyl or anything like that, you don't want the clips to leave indentions in your cork or whatever textile you're using. Okay, so what we're going to do to create the slip pocket box, which is step 8, we're going to flip over to the wrong side. I'm going to reference the diagram in the pattern and measure out my slip pocket box. So it's 0.75 down from the top, and then 1 1/8 from the top, which if you measure from your 0.75 line, it's just 3/8. And then from the sides, we're going to measure in 0.75 as well. Go ahead and mark those lines. Alrighty, so we're going to gather one of our inner lining panels. I need to hit that with the iron again, so I'm going to use the other one. There we go. So this one, again, already interfaced. What I'm going to do is right side up, I'm going to center it here on my mat so that I can eyeball this. And so I'm going to grab the box side that I just made. I'm going to center it on the right and left sides and lay it with 1/4 inch from the top edge of my inside panel. So I'm going to clip it. And then I'm going to sew it. So just before I sew, I just wanted to reiterate that it should be 1/4 inch. This pocket panel should be 1/4 inch from the top of the lining panel here, and then centered on both sides here. Now, what I'm going to do is, most of the time, people tell you to stitch around the entire box. Another tip that I picked up from Lauren whenever we were teaching together at Barb's Bags Got Interfacing Retreat last year is you just stitch the long lines. You don't stitch the little short lines, and it actually makes for a much nicer box once you get it turned. I'm going to shorten my stitch length, and then I'm going to start at the top of one long line that I marked and just sew. And then, again, not going to stitch the short edges. I'm going to back up and stitch the second long line. But I found that if you do it like this, it helps alleviate the bunchy corners that you get whenever you flip through. So you'll see. All right, so if you see, I just did my 2 long lines here. I didn't do the little ones. So I'm gonna cut just down the center of those and not all the way to the end. So I'm gonna leave about a 1/4 inch, a little more than a 1/4 inch, because then you go in with your scissors and cut the V. And you wanna be very careful not to cut into your stitches. And so the next step is that we are going to iron this to give it a nice crisp finish. So I've got my iron warming up right now, and then I will show you how I iron it to make it sit nice. All right, so please don't judge me on my ironing board cover. It's a towel. I want to take some time and do the mini ironing board cover tutorial by So Hungry Hippie. I just haven't had time yet. I digress. So we have just cut our opening here. The way that I like to do this is when the iron is warmed up, I pull and finger press this pocket away, then give it a good iron. And now I'm gonna lay that back down, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this other little short edge here. And fold it, hit it with the iron. The next thing I like to do is, even though I didn't stitch the little short sides, I fold that edge up as well and iron that. And then the same thing with this side. And then, once you get it all ironed, you can see it looks all nice and crispy. I'm going to carefully pull just the pocket through the hole. I remember the very first time I did this, I was like, what? I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it. All right, so carefully, you're just gonna go ahead and start flipping everything through. You can kind of roll your seam down, straighten everything out. If you've ever done a pocket like this, then you know it's not a pretty process. So once you get everything pulled through, give it a good iron. And I'm gonna flip it, just make sure that everything looks nice on this side too. So, look, there's one tiny little pucker right there, but other than that, the box is nice and perfect. It doesn't have those crazy puckers here in the corner. So that is why I do this method. Even this side's laying a lot nicer. So I guess since I'm here, I'll just move you on over and we can top stitch. Let me reference the pattern here. All right, so this is still step 9. So what we're gonna do now is just top stitch around this entire opening. I like to start on the bottom. I don't know why. It's weird like that. Don't forget to lengthen your stitch length back. Now it's all top stitched. And then step 10 is you're going to take this long edge, flip it up and over, and you're going to line it up with the top of the pocket panel. I just like to finger press this in place, throw a couple clips on it. And then, so flip your whole panel right side up. You'll see now if you look through the slip pocket, you'd have the backing there. So we need to sew this closed to create the actual pocket. So what I'm gonna do is with the right side up, I'm gonna roll up this right side, or no, I'm sorry, you start at the bottom, so the bottom. And you're gonna still roll up the right side of the lining panel, and you're gonna leave the zipper panel exposed, and you're gonna sew up and around the entire zipper, or the entire pocket panel to enclose that inner pocket. And you just need to move the lining panel out of the way the whole time. And there we go. Voila. Oops. One slip pocket. So I'm going to give this another good press just to make sure there aren't any wrinkles from folding it whenever I was sewing the pocket together. And then I will meet you back over at the cutting table. Alright, so now we've got that completed, that same completed slip pocket panel. And I'm just going to trim this up because my threads are getting just a little bit crazy over here. And so what you're going to do is step 11, attach zipper panel to the lining. So with your zipper panel right side up, what you're going to do, well, I'm going to center my lining panel. It's a little bit off too, actually. You know what I need to do is straighten out my line because it's just a wee bit off. Here we go. So, center your lining panel. And then with your zipper panel right side up and your zipper head to the left. Now that's my preference. I'm right-handed, so I just always put my zipper head to the left, but really it doesn't matter to me which side you want your zipper to open from. Anywho, you're going to center the zipper panel on top of the right side up lining. And clip it. And then next what you need to do is grab the top lining. It's going to be the thin piece out of your accent cork or vinyl or whatever. And then this one you lay right side down, lining up one long edge, clip into place. So we've got a little bit of a zipper sandwich as usual. Right side down top lining piece, then you have the right side up zipper panel, and then you have the right side up lining panel. Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to top stitch 1/4 inch down this long edge here. Whenever I'm bumping up onto my zipper panel, you can feel it because the thickness jumps. I like to back stitch. Same thing when I'm coming off of it. My machine likes to skip stitches on that stuff, which is why I've just gotten into practice with doing that. All right, so the next step that you do here is you're going to flip. I'm just going to kind of finger press it, but you flip this whole section, so the top lining and the zipper lining, and the zipper panel up and over. Finger press this well, and we are going to stitch just across the top of the fabric here. 1/8 of an inch. So now what that'll do is when the bag is all fully nested together, top stitching it down here will make sure that the zipper panel sits upright and it doesn't go into the bag. So you'll see. All right, so now we need to attach the other lining panel. So what we're going to do is move this out of the way just for a second. Grab the blank lining panel. I'm going to center it. And then we're going to grab our completed lining panel with the whole zipper shebang and lay it right side down and center that zipper pocket or that zipper panel onto the lining. Clip it, and then I bet you can guess. Ta-da! Top lining piece, lay it right side down, clip into place. And then we're going to do the same thing as before, top stitch, 1/4 inch, flip, yada yada. All right, so it's kind of hard to see, but this is what we're working on right now. We've got this top lining sandwiched with the zipper panel and then the other lining piece here. So same as before, top stitch with the 1/4 inch. All right, and then so the easiest way that I found to do this is you reach in to where just the bottom lining panel lays flat, pull everything up and over. And so you're gonna have, this is already been top stitched, and now this is the one that we're going to top stitch. So the way that it was resting like this. We top stitched across here. Now we need to pull this one up and over and lay it flat, and then we're going to top stitch on the fabric just like we did on the other lining side. First, we must move our collection of junk out of the way. Okay, so here we go. We are getting there with the lining. All right, so now we are on step 13. Step 13 is same thing that we did with the exterior. We're just gonna line everything up and clip it. So I'm gonna pay attention to my box corners. And what I really want to pay attention to as well is this. I want these two fabric seams to line up and be perfect, because that's what you're gonna see when you look into the bag. So that's what I'm gonna do first. And so the zipper can get in the way here, just, you know, you're stronger, move it out of the way. All right, and then we're gonna clip around like we did before with the exterior. That looks like crap, what's going on here? All right, and so this is gonna be the same technique that we used for the exterior. We are gonna sew down one side, we're gonna stop the needle, and then we're gonna push them together and sew across. So again, be careful for your zipper. And then on this, as much as possible, you want your top edges to line up, because this is what is going to become the top edge of the bag once it's inside the exterior. So make sure you top stitch this well. And because the lining itself was curved, the pattern piece, just hold that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I designed the pattern pieces to nest nicely without you having to do too much work. Okay, so turning it, push it, create that pucker, foot down, sew with a 1/4 inch. And so here we are at this last corner. Again, get close, lift your foot, turn, and then push these 2 edges together, lower your foot, and then keep on trucking. Okay, so be careful of your zipper on this side for sure. Remember, we're trying to line up the top edges as much as possible. We're keeping that 1/4 inch seam allowance too. Remember that. Okay. Clip them at the end. All right, so you're gonna unzip, and then same as before, we're gonna reach in and just push our puckers out. Create that perfect boxed edge. With these, I don't butterfly, but I do lay one seam allowance one way and then the other the opposite. Just to reduce bulk. And then sew 1/4 inch seam allowance, as always. Whoa. Kicked my foot pedal all over the place down there. I got too excited. All right, last box. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Mm-hmm. 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 Alrighty, so there's our lining. All right, and so I'm going to show you on this edge, I didn't line it up the best. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to cut it, but I'm only going to cut this side, this back side here, and I'm just going to ever so gently taper it in so no one will be the wiser. So another thing that I like to do that I don't mention in the pattern, because I don't know, I just didn't for some reason. I like to iron my boxes. Like, I like to iron this to create a nice crisp edge before I sink this into the exterior. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reach in and push out all of my edges, and I'm going to grab each corner like this so that it's flat. And then I'm going to iron it. And then I'm going to flip it and do the same on the other side. Just grab these corners. Whoops, can't see. And then just like to, I don't know, straighten it out a little bit. Just like to hit all the edges so that it lays nicely. And, whoops, just unplugged my iron. Good thing it's still hot. And so then when you look inside the bag, which I'll just have to show you later, but when you look inside the bag after it's completed, it just, you could see how crisp the lining looks in there. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. You can see. I mean, yeah, I guess you can kind of tell. But see, it just makes it look, it has like a nice, the light is like reflecting too much, but it just has a nice crisp edge. So at this point, I do trim down my seam allowances on the lining, but not this top lining. I just trim all the fabric as much as I can. You don't have to be perfect. And then, like I was telling you before, I didn't get my top lining to sit perfectly on this side. So I zipped my zipper, and what I'm going to do is just, as best as I can, I'm just going to tuck my zipper panel down. Or not. It sticks up. It wants to stick up. But anyway, so you can see, maybe a little bit, the overlap. It's about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to, with my rotary cutter, create a gentle slope until it meets up. And then voila. All right, so just like I did before with the exterior side seams, I'm gonna do with these as well. I'm gonna butterfly them open and I'm gonna glue them. And then it'll lay nicer. If you don't want to butterfly your side seams like this, you could just lay your seams to the opposite. Lay your seam allowances from the exterior one direction and then lay the interior seam allowances in the other direction. It is totally up to you how you want to do that, which is why I didn't include that in the pattern, because that's just how I do it. And just because I make something does not mean I make it right. But it seems like you guys kind of like my stuff, so I shall keep inventing. All right, so I'm just butterflying these open. Okay, that's it for a second. These guys. See, so it stands up on its own. So the next step is whenever we nest the lining into the exterior, which is step 15. And as a matter of preference, I like to have the slip pocket at the back of the bag. If you wanted it, you could totally put it towards the front. That is up to you. First, I'm going to burn the top edge of my cork. Same on this one. If you wanted to edge coat, now would be a good time to do your top edges. I actually edge coat afterwards, but you cannot edge coat this section where the strap anchor already is. So if you wanted to edge coat, you would do it now while you could. Otherwise, you just edge coat up to the edge like I do. Or sometimes I'll kind of like finagle with it and get it. Anyways, I'm really off topic. I think I had a lot of coffee today. So I have my exterior right side up. I always put my tag on the front, so to me that's right side up. And I'm gonna grab my lining, and then with my slip pocket toward the back, open this up a little bit. I'm going to put my lining inside of my exterior. This really shouldn't be a big battle. Everything should be laid out pretty well. And then what you're gonna do is, as best as you can, you're just gonna eyeball this side seam from the lining to the side seam to here. And then line it up. And then the other thing that you want to keep in mind is that you want the top edges to line up nicely. So if you've ever done drop-in lining, you know the drill. They're kind of a pain in the butt. I really think this one isn't as bad as a lot of them. probably because I wrote the pattern, but I don't know. You let me know what you think. So I normally do the side seams first, and then I can see if I have to go back and make any adjustments. So in a perfect world, what should happen is that everything should just line up perfectly. And I mean, we could try, but I've made enough of these to know that that is not always the case. And a lot of times you got to take the lining out and maybe take some in on the edges, or take just a skosh off the bottom. It just all depends on how well you held your lines while sewing the exterior as well as the interior. I mean, if you've sewn anything, you know that there is a cornucopia of things that can go wrong. This one's actually looking pretty good though. Thank goodness, since I'm filming a video. Don't want another range backpack incident. That was a nightmare. But we got there in the end. Wow, it worked. Amazing. So one thing that I like to do is I like to zip it up before I top stitch, because sometimes once you get it zipped up, it kind of looks like the lining's a little bit wonky. So I always check this first. See, it kind of looks, I don't know, to me it kind of looks like it's a little wonky, but that's could be the way that the lining is sitting in there. So this is when I kind of maneuver the bag around. And then once you get the bag how you like it, I recommend gluing instead of just leaving these clips like this. So I will go around and I'll pull the clips off, and I'll start putting just a little bit of glue just to make sure that everything really, really stays put. Figured this was a better glue angle so I can show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to start pulling just a couple clips, and I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the top lining piece. And then I'm going to take extra care to make sure that when I glue it together that both of these top edges are flush. And you just clip it back into place. And then I just work my way around. Tuck your zipper down, of course. So I'm just kind of sliding my pieces to where they line up. And then clipping it. There. So now I would just let the glue set again for a little bit longer so that there's no shifting when I'm sewing, when I'm top stitching, because this is going to be the final top stitch around the entire top of the bag. So I want to be sure that this looks super nice, especially if you're doing contrasting stitching. This is what people are going to see first. So I just became like Steven Spielberg and found a new angle. We'll see if you guys like this. I was trying to create an angle so that you could see what I was actually stitching. Otherwise, I'd be taping from the other side and you wouldn't see anything. So, anywho, I unzipped the zipper. I'm going to take off a couple of my clips here. And I'm going to hold the zipper out of the way and move my needle and presser foot onto my work, and I'm just going to start stitching. This is where I like to go as slow as possible so that you don't mess up. You will have to manhandle the bag a little bit when you get to these corners. I like to throw a couple back stitches in when I'm going over my strap anchors. As hard as it is, you do want to try to keep everything as straight as possible when you're stitching. It's a pain, but it's worth it. Always makes me so nervous. All right, so we are nearing the end here. Just need to trim my threads. Give it a good gander. Not too shabby, not too shabby. So the next step is we are going to do step 16, which is attach exterior panel rivets. So I like to use my rivet template. I got mine from By Piera, but Tops and Bobbins sells them now for all of you who are going to ask, because I know that you will. And so what I like to do is lay, so it's kind of hard to see, but this one right here has the 1-inch strap width with 2 rivets. So that's what I'm going to use, because I'm going to do 2 rivets, one on either side of my seam. And it's easy to use this because you just line the 1-inch lines up with the strap anchor, because that's 1 inch wide. So I am going to make my marks here. And so you mark a 1/4 inch below the top of the bag, and that will fall. That will make sure that the rivets are actually going through the strap anchor that's recessed into here, which will add strength. That is exactly what we want. Move a little bit closer. All right, so I'm just gonna punch my holes. Make sure your zipper tails are out of the way when you're doing this, because that's not what you want to do. I get to play the fun game of, is this rivet gonna fit the rivet cap? Let's see. Nope. Yep. Ooh, 2 in a row. Feeling good. Yep. Nope. Try this one. Nope. And yes. Okay. So then you need to set your rivets. If you have a rivet press, obviously it makes it way easier. But you can also set by hand. So now the entire exterior is done. The only thing that we have left to do is make the strap. And so here's the inside, the front, sides, oh, sides. I kind of messed up there, but shh, don't tell anybody. And yeah, so side. And then, so here's my slip pocket there. That's what she looks like now. All right, so the last step is we need to make our strap. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew this together, and I'm not going to, you know, this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to pop to the machine and do this, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I got them joined, and so I will just show you the way that I did it. I just laid them right sides together, stitched at a 1/4 inch, and then I did the butterfly method on the main one. But on the little guy, on the accent, I did not butterfly it open. And I don't really have a rhyme or reason for that. It's just the way that I do it. So you pick your poison. I know that there are lots of ways to make straps, and lots of ways to join cork even to make straps. I've seen people do it where they lay it like they're making bias tape, like that, and then sew diagonally, and you know, so it's up to you on how you want to join yours. This is how I do mine. I've never had an issue with strength or durability or anything like that, so I've never had a reason to do it any other way. I am going to fold in toward the center all the way down my strap, like so. And then I'm going to come through with my accent and center it like so. Oh gosh, couldn't even see any of that. That's funny. Here, let me do that again. So, you fold your main color in toward the center. I'm going to make it as even as possible, but it's not I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal as long as you get it basically right, because this is a 2-inch wide strap, and when you fold it in toward the center, it becomes 1 inch. And then as long as you have close to, you know, as long as you're close to the middle. And then your accent strip, I just go and lay it right over that seam, and I center it down both sides like that. So that's what I'm gonna do for the rest of my strap. So I am sewing on top of the accent strip 1/8 in from the edge. And as I go, I'm going to move my bobby pins, but only out halfway. And then I'll slide them back around to hold the other side, the unstitched side. All right, so we are on the last step. So exciting. What we need to do is mark our fold line. This is step 18 in the pattern. We are just going to make a mark. I'm gonna actually do it on the wrong side, since that's where we'll be folding. So 1.5 inches. And then we need to mark our rivet holes. So you mark 1/4 moved over here. Is that a little bit better for you? This. So I'm going to mark 1/4 and then again at 3/4 on both. Obviously you want to make sure that they are in the middle of the strap. Again, this template tells me where that is. Lazy, a lazy seamstress. Told y'all before. All right, so this is the final countdown. Burn my threads off. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we take our tri-slide here. This has this fancy little middle bar. We are going to slide one end up. Let me do it this way. Up and over the tri-slide. And then we are going to align that center bar on that line that we drew. So the 1.5 inch line. And fold it. And then we are going to punch our holes. I like to do one at a time because then the one rivet kind of holds it in place for me. And then that hole. Good Lord, I need some matching rivets. There we go. Where'd my thing go? Okay. And then we're going to rivet press. And then we grab our bag. Yay! Almost there. So what you do is you want the right side of the strap, so the accent side, facing the bag, front exterior up. You're going to loop it through the rectangle loop, come all the way up to this tri-slide, push the tri-slide out. You're gonna loop up and over, like that. And you're gonna pull it all the way through. And then we're going to slide it from the outside through the rectangle loop. Again, that line, that 1.5 inch line that we made, that's where we're aiming for here. This is when things always get a little crazy. It's like snake wrestling. So I'm going to pin this one because I don't want my holes to be off. All right, and this is why we mark it before we fold it. So you know the drill. Also, I find it really funny that I said snake wrestling because if I ever saw a snake, I would, oh my God, cry probably. No, probably not cry, but I would definitely run away. I would never wrestle a snake. Eat me. I don't care. I mean, I'm obviously thinking of an anaconda, but I mean, I wouldn't wrestle a garter snake. Those things are so scary. All right, enough about me. Let's get to riveting. Because it's riveting. Get it? Oh, God. There we go. There we go. There we go. It's done. Oh, put it into the frame. It's done. All right, you cool cats and kittens. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video of the mini box tote that I made for you today. Ruka just woke up from a nap, so he's very excited. We are going to go on a walk. Anyways, yeah, so do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And, excuse me while I wipe dog slobber off my chin. Yeah, I hope once again that you guys are staying safe out there in all this COVID-19 madness. I hope that none of you have been affected. And if you have, then I hope that you are feeling better and that you are well. I'm thinking about everybody, and until next time, be well.